For Hillary, we've got several people asking about laws of thermodynamics, entropy, how disorganization increases rather than organization, and therefore how can something become more evolved to a higher level just by random chance?
Well, there's a simple question.
And explain carbon-14 dating.
Well, this is a really difficult question for me because I haven't done significant research on this. I assume they're asking it from the evolutionary perspective, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It all comes from micro changes, and micro change upon micro change upon micro change. Then maybe it got split off. This isn't really answering the question. I'm sorry. But if you have a micro change, something could become slightly more complicated, just because an extra molecule got bonded onto it or something. It's organized. It's organized due to chemistry, and I don't think I have a very good answer for this. I'm sorry about that, but
it's a little complicated for a soundbite answer.
Right. I mean, I could probably look it up and do a little more follow-up on the blog at a later point.
Question for both, I think, here. What is the cause of evil? Similar question. Do you believe that people are inherently good? If so, how do you explain evil in the world?
Do I get to go first? I don't know if there is a cause of evil. I guess it depends on your definition of evil. Evil is just, if you're saying it's just bad things happening, genocide, horrible dictators in countries like North Korea. You have some bad people who do bad things. Not all people are good. I think people have the opportunity to be good, and I believe that it's environment that causes them to either be good or be bad. And it's all based on our own understanding of good and bad and morality, which it's pretty much the same. I mean, not everything, but most worldviews can agree that torturing someone is bad and that starvation is bad. And it's just a result of nature and human nature, maybe inability or lack of caring of certain people to help someone else who needs it.
Do I believe in evil?
Yeah, and I put my card away. Yeah, where does evil come from? Why are people inherently good? If so, how do you explain evil in the world?
Well, being in the Christian tradition, I believe in evil. And I believe evil came from, ultimately, Satan's rebellion. And that Adam and Eve rebelled. They were real historical people who rebelled in regard to evil. And I think, again, speaking for me, Christian worldview is the best explanation for evil going. Because as I look specifically at Eastern religions who argue that evil is illusory, and even when you look at, I think Ivan and Brothers Karamazov nailed it when he said if there is no God, everything's permissible. Every atheist I've talked to would say that's not fair, okay, but at the end of the day, here's speaking for me, here's why I would struggle being an atheist. Because I can't find a reason then why certain things are right and certain things are wrong. I can go to preference. I can say, I don't like that you would shoot my kids, and I prefer you don't burn down my house, and I would prefer you not slap my wife, but I really don't have a moral basis to say that's wrong versus killing bunny rabbits. I mean, you have to have, I think, at the end of the day, a moral anchor that explains why something's wrong. And because of that, I believe in evil, and I think the reason is very real. And I believe that there's a good reason why certain things are right and certain things are wrong, absolutely all the time. But that's coming out of the Christian framework, which is trying to speak for my view.
Perhaps if you were a Jane, you would think that killing an ant would be wrong.
If I was a what?
A Jane?
Sure, I would, probably.
So there is a
I
certain
wouldn't
amount
make a
of
very good
variation.
Jane because I like to eat meat. But yeah, it might be.
Question for Jay, following up on the C.S. Lewis stuff that we were talking about earlier, I think. C.S. Lewis claimed that Jesus' claims meant that he was either Christ or a liar or insane. Couldn't he have just been wrong?
Well, that would be insane or a liar. There's only two options. If you mean just ignorant. Back to the original thing. Ignorant, okay. Normal people don't walk around saying they're God in human flesh. That's simple. I mean, I don't know how to get around that. And people that do are usually crazy. I've talked to some who claim most of us would put them in the loony bin. You have to make a decision. When someone says, David Koresh, I am the Son of God, if they are mistaken, truly mistaken, then they are insane, by definition, in my view. Or they are an imposter, plain and simple. I think Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, the guy with all the Rolls Royces, I think he was an imposter. Others, I truly believe, are insane. But normal people don't walk around making those kind of claims. They are extreme claims. When you claim you're going to judge all people and that you're the only way to God and that you are God, you've got to do something with that. You can't just say, well, they might be wrong. If you're wrong and you really believe those things, then you are, in my view, you are insane. Or you're the ultimate shyster and liar. So I don't know how she can end up speaking for me.
Along the same vein, Hillary, was Jesus a historical person? And if so, what do you do with the C.S. Lewis kind of quote like that?
Well, I've read that there is something of a controversy. I lean toward thinking he was a historical person, but that his followers I don't think that the Bible is an accurate account of history, basically. I think either his followers made things up, or they, have sort of like this, I remembered, it was so wonderful, and then he told us that he was the Son of God. I think that the accounts in the Gospel are not an accurate representation of history. I don't think anyone can change water into wine. I mean, you just have H2O, where you're going to get all the other molecules that go in to make wine. The miracles, I think that it's just not accurate. So I'm kind of taking a different road there, but that's where I'm coming from.
Next question for Pastor Jay. Why is Christianity so hostile to homosexuals but so accepting of adultery? I don't know if that's loaded or not.
That, to me, is a cheap shot. Okay, maybe it's a sincere question.
I just happened to pick that one from, there was a lot of questions
Thank
around
you.
What do we feel about homosexuality. That was the one that was on my screen.
I have a hard time painting any worldview or any group of people saying they're just hostile. Even of Muslims. I've been around too many Muslims that are kind and gracious. I've stayed overnight in their homes, so just to broad brush everybody. I know our church is not hostile to homosexuals. I know that because we have homosexuals in our church. I've had them talk to me. I remember a very vivid phone call from a lesbian who called me and thanked me for a sermon I preached on homosexuality, because she said, you told the truth, but you told it kindly. Thank you. And so I know, unless I'm missing something huge, that we have a community here that is accepting of that. And so I hope we're not hostile to homosexuals. We shouldn't be, and there's no justification to do that. And I don't think we're very open to adultery. So, I mean, honest to God, I have been much harder on adulterers in my office than homosexuals. I mean, and here's the reason. I believe you can be homosexual in orientation based on your environmental growing up, and that you have that proclivity. If you don't act it out, I don't think it's a sin. Just to have a homosexual orientation, I think it's a sin to act it out. If you are an adulterer, you are breaking a covenant, you are breaking a vow, and you are being sexually immoral. And so I think the adulterer should be much more chastised if the homosexual is being celibate.
So, if I have a good friend who is gay, and he meets someone that he is madly in love with. I mean, imagine meeting your wife. You know, you love her more than anybody. But he can't have a long-term, meaningful relationship that includes the physical part, because that is a part of relationships. That seems like a very unfair thing. And all of the people I know, I have many gay and lesbian friends, they don't choose it. It's not a lifestyle that you choose. It's not something you would want. I mean, it's very difficult. You know, you can't marry the person you love. You can't have that legal bond with that person. So I don't see that as, if you say, oh, you can be this way, but you can't act on it, it's a forced celibacy for the rest of your life. I mean, most people can't live celibate their whole life. That doesn't seem like it is a very, very accepting to me.
That's fair. I mean, it's a fair statement. And if you step outside the Judeo-Christian framework, it probably would seem bigoted. I'm speaking from within the Judeo-Christian framework, when God made Adam and Eve and made the first covenant of marriage in the Garden of Eden. Because I believe those things are historically true, and that marriage, by biblical definition, historically and theologically, is between a man and a woman, that homosexual sex is wrong. So we're coming at it from your worldview and my worldview, which would be very, very different.
True.